Ex-prisoners of Reddit, what was the scariest thing you've seen on prison? So I had this friend I hung out with all the time when I was a teenager, and his dad had been to prison a few times. I used to go over and drink/smoke weed with my friend and his brothers, and sometimes his dad would hang out with us for a bit. One night when we were all drinking, he decided to tell us all a story from his prison days. When he was close to being released, he decided he wanted to do something nice to surprise his wife. So he cut his penis and put some balls underneath the skin and let it close/heal, with the idea that it would make sex better for her. Guess as a thank you for waiting for him and taking care of the kids while he was in prison. This was years later, and he still had them in. I cold lived 1,000 lifetimes without hearing that story and been perfectly happy. I too could have lived for 1,000 lifetimes and never heard that story and been perfectly happy. It wasn't something I saw so much as something I heard. Don't read if you have a weak stomach. This guy came in. Very scary dude. He was openly a necrophiliac. The guy was doing time for desecration of a corpse. I was just a kid when this happened. So I was in the 24-year-old block, known in many jails and prisons as the jungle. Kids in jail are young, curious, and refuse to believe anyone out there has seen or done worse than they have in general. So people started asking this guy questions, trying to call his bluff and get him to explain what he was really in for. He stuck to his story that he got caught ducking a corpse in a cemetery. So here's where shit got bad. They started asking questions and everyone realized he was dead serious. No pun intended. He explained to us that it's very simple to duck a dead female body. He said you simply dig the corpse up, lubricate the anus, puncture if necessary, and slide a curling iron inside for 5-7 minutes. He explained the vagina's close proximity to the anus caused this to warm the vagina up and make it feel lifelike. He said any scarring or burning to the anus didn't matter, as this was all about making her feel alive while you needed her and nothing else mattered. The utter matter-of-fact manner in which he explained it all, coupled with his jacket papers showing what crime he was incarcerated for, showing he was in for desecration of a corpse. No one asked him anything after that. No one messed with him or got in his way. Not even groups of dudes ever messed with him. I saw some savage beatings, met some killers, rapists, armed robbers, truly scary, awful people. Nothing stuck with me like that, though. 12 years later, I still think about that guy sometimes and get the creeps. The cartel cornered me because they thought I snitched on them for a cell phone. Dozens of eyes staring me with the intent to kill, until my ex-bunkie, one of the leaders, came over and vouched that I was legit and never said a thing about the stuff he did. The guy they were really looking for checked into solitary the next day, and I was cool again. Damn dude, I bet Jad was tense. I had a similar thing where a key holder of the app got released, and cause we were close, we kicked it, but I don't believe in his politics. A rumor started that I snitched on him and he was in solitary. It was a tense day till one of his buddies got a hold of him and he vouched for me. It's kind of a log story, but Jat's the simplified version. Not really scary but messed up. Was locked up in Japan and there was a Korean guy who came in. You weren't allowed to talk at all, and when you talk to the guards it should be in Japanese. The whole place is silent basically. We're locked down except for 20 minutes to shave in an outside corridor and brush teeth morning and night. Showers once in 5 days. Timed 15 minutes. Unless it falls on a weekend or public holiday, in which case 24h lockdown. It messes with your head when you can't talk, so some of us did at the risk of getting ducked. This Korean guy couldn't speak a ducking word of Japanese, so he was ducked. They brought in a translator who only spoke English and Japanese, the duck, to try and talk to him, but nothing happened. I spoke some basic Korean and whispered to him through the bars at the back to relax and stop talking, but he kept going. The guards came up and told him in Japanese they were gonna beat him to death if he didn't shut up. He kept on trying to say things, and they got a couple guys and forcefully dragged him to an solitary isolation cell with no windows or any entertainment whatsoever. We have no view of the isolation cell, and he screamed, cause it sounded like they were beating him. A Chinese inmate was frequently denied water, no tap in the cell, and abused verbally daily. He cried when I spoke to him in Chinese, cause he hadn't heard it in forever. Rampant racism in Japanese jails. People love to ignore human rights for incarcerated people because they think we aren't human. I've seen men treat other men worse than animals. It's horrible. Not prison but in jail. After the first few weeks of getting visitors there was a period where no one came to see me. Being shut off from the world and feeling like everyone else is moving on without you is scary. Not a prisoner, but a former prison guard. One of our corporals got stabbed over 30 times, with no one around to help. Blood spray had practically painted the office red. Amazingly, he survived, but never came back. Another officer got beat so bad he was unrecognizable, all for a stupid gang initiation. Only death during my time was a guy that was improperly restrained, in the dark, without a camera, and he choked to death because he was wearing too many clothes and had toilet paper in his nose. Because he knew the CERT, prison SWAT, team was coming to get him. My cousin at the mental health prison had some wild stories. A guy with his testicle on a spork, another would open his abdominal stitches and play with his own intestines. I could not imagine working there. Inmate who was suicidal and selling heroin, ate everything and died. Very simple and to the point. Not in prison. Never been. But when I was at school, we were given a talk by an ex-prisoner in the US. One of the things that I still remember him saying was when he saw someone take another inmate's head off with a shovel. Apparently it took quite a few attempts to get the whole thing off. Now I know how nearly headless Nick died. Thanks. Someone super close to me was in prison, and it was scary for me too because he had been a cop and so had to go to a special prison with people that had to be separated because they were cops, mobsters, gangsters, etc. At first he got visitors from multiple friends, but eventually I was the only one visiting him and he had very little contact from anyone, not even family. Then when he got out it was like he was a shell of the man he used to be. He was intimidated by people and cowed away from people just unlike the supermarket. It was so weird seeing a once confident and strong man turn into a timid and scared one. An old lady in the cell next to mine started like a moaning wailing sound and said she didn't feel right. We were all yelling for the co's overhead intercom system on the old Cook County jail. By the time the lazy bastards decided to haul their asses to her room it was too late. She died from something like a heart attack or stroke. That may not sound scary, but until you hear someone in a cell next to you die in the dark, so close to people who are supposed to help, you can't imagine the scariness. That messed me up for a long time. And it wasn't the only time something like happened. There were suicides, drug overdoses, terminal illnesses, violence. But that one old lady never left my mind. I never had a real scary moment, but there was an unsettling day at our facility. This kid, T. Trailer, was everyone's homie, and we all talked to him. He was one of the star football players, and so he was released on Friday. He was shot and killed on Sunday. The next day, the POs let us know. It was quiet for the whole day, and it even started raining. Dark, grey gloomy skies. Rest in peace. A guy that gave himself a Prince Albert while he was locked up. He was very proud and liked to show it off. Edit, corrected typo. He liked to do what now? He liked to show everyone his creation. Guys cutting their dick. Damn. Pretty scary. Former Norwegian inmates, raw food. And they won't order GTA V for your Xbox because you left the GTA 4th disc out of the case one time. One time. Jesus Christ, that's too cruel and inhumane. Definitely the scariest story here. Not a prisoner myself, but heard from a friend that you have to shit in front of other prisoners. It's a nightmare for someone with psychosis and anxiety issues like him to poop without privacy. On top of that, he was jailed for a crime he didn't really did, but got involved in as he was part of the group. Sucks, man. Also, he told stories that some isolation cells like those for suicidal prisoners had just a simple hole to do all your business. Not even a toilet/bathroom. Comments from ex-prisoners alike. People hanging. Overdosing. Being stabbed. This dude on about. Pooping in front of others. No shade at all, just a funny contrast. Another story, but this time the funniest thing I saw anyone do. Not disturbing. Prank from hell. Dude had a cellmate who used to jerk it a lot. Multiple times a day. Out in the open and shit. In a fiffy. A fiffy is a prison pocket pussy made by taking a latex glove from the kitchen, filling it with lotion from commissary, rolling your towel up around the glove, and wrapping the glove around the outside of the towel, creating a seal. You then duck the hole like a pocket pussy, but in jail it's known as a fiffy. Dude collected a bunch of the hot peppers from his jalapeno ramen cups for like a week. Then when his roommate was showering, he grabbed his fiffy from under his mat, put all the peppers in, and put some lotion on top so dude wouldn't see. Few hours later dude went to duck it and had to go to medical and see a nurse. Wasn't in prison, but I've been wrongfully thrown in asylum during an insurance scheme. I saw a kid get his hand broken for no goddamn reason. I saw people thrown in isolation and put in straitjackets just for standing in the wrong place. And worst of all, I saw a kid pinned down crying his eyes out, screaming for help whilst being held down by 3 adults as a fourth administered a tranquilizer. Those places are cruel and unusual and have no place in modern society. The fact you were wrongfully thrown in an asylum is scary enough for me. Do you mind if I ask for a bit more context about that? Long story short, my abusive father had me put in there for months in order to get some cash. DHS in America is so ducking stupid. Never did any serious time, but I was in and out of county jail a handful of times in my younger years. One ducked up thing: racism. It's encouraged and the whole system is built around it. You have to hang out with your own. As a light-skinned Rodriguez, that caused a little issue for me. Next is the extortion: food, money, goods, service or services, whatever you can think of. It's in short supply and high demand. Fish are easy prey. You can pretty much take anything from them with the promise of protection/friendship with no follow through. The prices of items in the commissary are ridiculous. A Lunchable that's $2 at your grocery store is $5 in jail and 3 weeks expired. I've seen a guy read a book of how to use your prison pockets with a sledgehammer next to him. He was a worker at a renovating building. Not me, but I got told this story a few years ago, and I warn anybody before continuing, it is highly graphic. Rape warning. So there was a guy who lived in this foster system that my friend was in. He got sent to prison for raping his grandmother to death. Actually happened. I will try to find the news article. And when he got sentenced, a few inmates found out what he did and took him into the showers and proceeded to shove a wooden broom up his ass until it was gushing blood. Then poured soap, shampoo and whatever else they could on the nut or asshole so that it would be harder to clean and heal. I think he died from some internal injuries later that day or week. NSFW. Be warned, this is very gruesome. Probably the time a new inmate got stabbed 10 times in the chest by his cellmate and cut his head nearly off. Rumor was he knew his cellie before prison, and obviously they didn't like each other. Another rumor was that the prison set him up to be in his cell just so he could kill him. Well, doubt it, as prison guards are just as corrupt and dangerous as the inmates. You hear all these suicides in prison when really it's a complete setup by the guards. This is why nobody is your friend when you're behind bars. Even the ones you trust the most will turn on you. This is also why you don't want to go to prison. Edit. Grammar mistakes. Oops. I'm not sure what to call it, so I'm gonna anal spillage. A prison mate a few cells down from me got his anus destroyed, and for like 3 days shit and blood just spilled out of his ass at random intervals during the day. A friend just got out a few days ago. He did 5 years in California on a level 4 yard, which I think is the highest. Snyway. He said while he was in there, a guy came in who was what they consider an affiliate. They aren't part of the gang, but have done things in the past to help and thus earned protection. So, this quiet guy gets matched with a big ugly lifer, tatted to the gills, and with an anger problem. Well, after a few weeks, after lights out, this big lifer starts picking on the little guy. No one knows what they fought over, But at head count the next morning, the co looks in and finds the little guy smoking a cigarette with blood everywhere and nothing but a skull next to him. Apparently, the little guy won, then removed all the organs and flushed them down the toilet. Then he cut big sections of skin and flushed those. Then the muscles. Even the bone was cut up or broken and flushed. Then he had some foldy as instant coffee and a cigarette. I mean, the best part of hacking up is Folgers in your cup. Hey, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.